It's 6 p.m. on October 21st, 2021, and this is a regular council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order and pronounce that there is a full quorum. And I have asked Chuck Vonderland if he would please do our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we come to you tonight with heavy hearts. We've lost so many neighbors in the last week or two, starting with Missy, and I won't name them all, Lord, you know who they are. I hope you'll comfort us, comfort their families, comfort the whole community. Be with us this evening for this meeting. Get us all back home safe and sound. Help the council make good decisions. And we ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As Chuck mentioned in his prayer, of course, we lost Missy this past a week ago, and it to all of us around here, it seems just impossible. It seems incredible that it all happens, so quickly. And our community has suffered loss after loss. There's 3 funerals going on Saturday, and then we found out that Jim O'Neill passed today. So it's just been, one thing after another. So our community is definitely grieving. And thank you for mentioning that in the prayers. You can't hear me? Oh my God! Usually I'm very loud. Okay. No one has signed up for communications from the audience. Is there anything on YouTube? Nope. Okay. Consent agenda. Is there anyone that wants to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Mayor, the dam inspection reports for September 2021 are not available.
Okay, so we'll remove that. Is there anything else? Is there any objection to the adoption of the consent agenda items? Hearing none, they are adopted. Okay. Regular council agenda, number 1, update from LJA Engineering on scheduled bond construction projects, Texas General Land Office grant projects, and Texas Water Development Board project. First, we're going to address the Texas Water Development Board project. We have Dawn. She can hear me. We have Dawn online, and of course Victoria is here. Victoria Dye is here in person to kind of guide us through the process, through the description of what we're going to be doing to finish up our Texas Water Development Board project. So I'm going to turn it over to you girls.
All right. First, thank you guys for letting me attend virtually this afternoon. I'm at a conference out of town, so really appreciate this. I'm going to run through a slideshow. We'll talk about the status of the project, what remains, and give you guys some options to consider along with a recommendation for closing this work out. So has anybody got anything they'd like to ask or start with before I get going on this?
I don't think so.
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, here we go, guys. Okay. Vic, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll go through the status of the Water Development Board upgrade project to the entrance to the city. I know it's been under construction for a little while, but just as a reminder, we started out with a single 36-inch corrugated metal pipe culvert that had eroded away over the years. Everybody's well aware that we've had some cave-ins on it. The bottom of the pipe had completely rusted out, and you can see the swag in the road. Essentially, it served as a low flow crossing, a low water crossing anytime there were heavy rains. So with a 36-inch pipe culvert, your total cross section in there was approximately 7 square feet. And now we have new box culverts. We have a pair of 8x5 box culverts. So we went from 7 square feet to 80 square feet with an elevated road surface. So we ought to be in much better shape anytime there's a rain, and you guys shouldn't have to drive through a flooded roadway, and also get a nice new guardrail on it. There was some rain right towards the end of construction, and so there were some erosion spots. The contractor did provide some rock to help address that right as it was being completed. Part of their SWIP, or their stormwater pollution prevention plan, was to install rock dams. Anytime you've got bare earth, there is the potential for erosion during a rain. And so the earth and the rock dams are there to catch the sediment, so we don't have a large sediment load moving into the area downstream. The contractor also came back and just hand broadcast some ryegrass so that the vegetation would begin to establish and help mitigate any future erosion. And you can see in these pictures that grass has started to establish, albeit a little spotty, because they do just simply hand cast that material out, or that seed out. But it has started to germinate, and that's a good sign. It means they put some good topsoil back on after all of the clay embankment was worked up. And so you've got a good base to establish grass. You can see in this picture, these pictures are of the south side ditch, so the discharge side of the culvert. And the picture on the left-hand side, you can see it's full. So this is right behind a rain. And you've got a little bit of erosion on that bare earth, but the grass is coming in already. So with that, we've got essentially the primary elements of the project are complete. We've got nice big culverts in, everything stabilized, elevated travel surface, fresh hot mix asphalt. Ditch grading is complete. We've got topsoil, and the ryegrass, like I mentioned, has begun to sprout. And so we're looking now to find the best way to address any potential erosion. We are going into the cooler months, so the initial grass is going to have a little bit slower start on it. And so we're going to talk about now the options for addressing those. Essentially, we've got some areas near the culvert that are about a 2.5 to 1 slope. As we get further down the ditch line, that slope flattens out. And there's about 250 linear feet each side of the culvert on the approach, and then on the far side of the culverts, either side of the road. So that's a total of about 1,000 linear feet, 250 on each of the 4 corners. When we talk about options to stabilize the ditch banks, there are lots of ways to go about doing this. And so I was able to find one picture that uses multiple examples. And what you see here at the bottom edge of the picture is some precast block that's been grouted into position. And so that's a truly hardened fixed surface. And what's going on here is this ditch is about to discharge into a receiving stream, and so that's where the higher velocities and higher potential erosions are. And so that's what they've chosen to apply here, is this solid surface. The bottom of the ditch is a higher velocity zone than these outer edges, because this is the primary conveyance, and so they've chosen to place stone in there. But this stone is actually bigger than some of the earlier discussions. The stone is on the 8 to 12 inch range instead of the 3 to 5 inch range. Typically, that smaller rock is used for heavy duty driveway, and to get some good erosion control, you need at least 6 to 9 inch rock, typically though 8 to 12. And so that's what we're seeing here in the middle of the ditch. On the yard side, this particular project, they applied, it's a little bit tough to see, but this is the square block sodding. So they've sodded the residential side of the ditch. And then it looks like they've just applied seed to the roadside edge of the ditch. No reinforcement here, but you can see the seed is starting to germinate. And so this is a freshly constructed channel, but there are lots of ways to go about protecting our slopes. And it's typically driven by the velocities that we're going to experience in those ditches. So I mentioned that we've got armored surfaces or hardened surfaces. There's multiple options for that. There's a traditional stone paving, or I'm sorry, traditional slope paving, which is literally a pavement like you'd put on a parking lot. There's fabric formed concrete, and I'll show you some pictures of that in a minute. That's a little bit different option. There's the precast concrete blocks, which we saw in that previous picture, and stone riprap, as we've discussed, and as you see here in the bottom right hand on this particular slide. These options provide some benefits or some pros and some cons. Like any option will have some pros and some cons. These hardened surfaces are going to be very highly resistant to erosion, and they offer what we consider a structural solution. The trouble is they're a high cost of construction, typically the highest of all the options. They are labor intensive because you're working in the slope, and we don't want to put any big heavy equipment on our nice new road. So this would be smaller pieces of equipment, so it's a lot of trips, a lot of hand work. Any repairs would be very similar to doing the manual labor. And if you put the paving in, you don't have a long-term maintenance issue, but any of the other options produce a rough surface that vegetation will grow through. And so you're left with either spraying it with a herbicide or just letting it grow up. And in an area that's going to be exposed like this with your city entrance, you would not be able to mow, of course, that. You would have to have some other option for maintaining the vegetation through there. My pictures are going to come in slow. So this is a picture of traditional slope paving. This picture is the concrete block mats. So some of them are constructed where they're tied together, and we call that an articulated precast mat. And this picture shows what would be the fabric formed concrete. And so what that ends up looking like is it looks a lot like a tufted mattress. But it is literally a big sheet of double ply fabric that they pump concrete into. And that's what the finished product looks like on those. So that's the hardest version of a surface. Then we can go to what we consider a soft surface, but a reinforced natural surface. And there's, again, multiple ways to do that. The picture on the left shows a geogrid reinforced. So what they do is they put down a grid material that's got 2 to 4 inch deep pockets in it, and that helps hold the soil so it's not it's structurally reinforced, and then that can grow vegetation and be mowed. You can see it's on a very, very steep bank there on the edge of a river, so it's a location where the river does have the ability to come up and down, and so they didn't want to try to put a lot of stone in there on that particular project. They wanted something that looked more natural but was resistant to that high velocity and high flow fluctuation that you'd see in the river. On the right-hand side, we have 2 options of biodegradable erosion control mats. Those mats can be purchased in 2 versions. One has the seed already impregnated into the mat, and so you just roll it out, pin it down, and that seed then germinates. We have had some challenges with that particular type of product, depending on how long it's been in storage. That seed will sometimes germinate just like the seed in your bird feeder will at times before you want it to. And then you don't have a viable seed bed whenever it gets rolled out. The one in the lower right is simply a erosion control mat. It's They come with made out of coconut fiber or out of hay, or the two typical products, or straw. And that product, then you can put down the seed and then roll that mat out on top of it. It does a couple of things. It helps retain the moisture. It protects the soil underneath so that you don't have just a massive erosion issue until the vegetation can establish a nice root bed, and then it goes away. You don't have anything that's tangled up in mowers or anything. It's just a biodegradable fabric that you don't have to come back and take off later on. One of the issues, of course, again, is that it does require some manual installation. Again, we're looking at roughly 1,000 total linear feet on your project, and not all of it would need this. This is more applicable to where you would have the steeper slopes. The other thing when we do natural surfaces is we are very aware of the time of year that we're planting, and so we have a winter mix and a summer mix. The winter mix is a ryegrass, so that you get that winter grass that sprouts immediately and begins to establish a seed bed. And then the Bermuda seed that's applied during the winter is partially a hulled seed and partially unhulled. And so you get some of that Bermuda grass that will germinate early. And should you happen to get a freeze, the hulled seed has germinated and may have a problem, but you've got unhulled seed that will last longer and remain dormant until you get the springtime, and then it'll germinate. So you get three starts basically on your grass if you put the winter grass in. Summer grass is the mix of Bermuda, because that's what we're looking for, but millet as the early germination for summer instead of ryegrass. And then we have non-reinforced natural options. We've got turf installation, and so whether it's a rolled or block sodding, that can be applied as you're seeing on the left-hand side, or a hydromulch, which is sprayed on as you see on the right-hand side. When we spray hydromulch or hydroseeding on a sloped surface, they have additives that go into that batch. They use what are known as tachifers, so it basically is a starch and it amounts to ground up newspaper is what it amounts to, the mulching. But it provides a base to hold that seed, and it lets it stick to the slope, so it's not just blowing away should it dry out. So it does have a mulch that's helping to hold the moisture also, and it sticks to those surfaces. These are a couple of examples of how that would be applied. Again, on a hydromulch, we're going to specify the seed mix, and so you get a winter mix that's applied at the appropriate rate, the appropriate pounds of seed per acre, and it's got the mulch in it. So that kind of covers the range of options for establishing a slope stability. When we look at the cost of those, the hardened or armored surfaces are the most expensive, and depending on how you go about or which one you select, we're looking at anywhere from $25 a square yard up to $120 a square yard. The reinforced natural surfaces, if you're looking at that geogrid, it's actually a little more expensive than stone, but at times there is a reason for a particular project needing a vegetated surface as opposed to a stone surface, but a comparable price. And then the erosion control blankets are about half of that at $15 a square yard. Non-reinforced surfaces, a turf installation is going to run about $6 a yard. And the hydroseeding with the cellulose and tachifer mulch, it would be about $1.50 a yard. If you were simply broadcast seeding without the mulch or the tachifers, it's going to run about $1 a yard. So we're looking at options for finishing out the surface of raw dirt anywhere from $1 to $120 a square yard. It's a tremendous range, and every one of these applications has its place. with that, we looked at what we've got going on in this particular project. And as you saw in that first picture of the examples of how we can go about addressing this, different areas are often appropriate to have a different application. So right in the area of the culverts where we're going to have velocity changes, where we get scour issues and those kinds of things, we recommend using the stone, but the larger stone, the 12-inch. Takes about 80 tons to address the ends of those culverts. And that's for, like I said, erosion control. The other thing it does is it helps dissipate the energy, and so we don't have a long run of high velocity water that scours things out. As we move away from the culverts themselves, very near the culverts, that's where the steepest roadside ditches are. And so an estimate right now of 100 feet in each direction off of each of the four corners. At 12 foot approximately on average from the top of from the edge of the road to the flow line of the ditch on the steep side. That works out to about 535 square yards total. For that area, we'd recommend the high-tack hydromulch with the winter mix, and then dressing that with the biodegradable fiber mat on top of it. That's going to be about $8,000 for that part of it. And then all the other disturbed surfaces, the surface that isn't against the road and the flatter surfaces out beyond the ends of where we stop or where we'd recommend stopping the fiber mats, that works out to about 15,000 square feet, or about just under 1,700 square yards. And that would simply be the hydromulch, the $1.50 a square yard component. And so that's a big piece of your project. But with the hydromulch and the tachifers in it, we're only looking at about $2,500 to address those elements of it. Recap on that, the high velocity zones right around the culvert, stone, about $9,000. The steep areas near that, adjacent to the road, about 100 feet in each direction, gets the hydromulch plus the mat on top of that, the biodegradable mat on top of that as a protection, and that's about $8,000. Everything else, just the hydromulch, that'd be about $2,500 for a total estimate. And we do not have a hard quote on this because we want to hear what the council's feelings are. But for the estimate on that of just shy of $20,000. That's all I have. Happy to take questions and go back to any slide anybody'd like to review.
Well, you kind of answered.
Yeah.
You kind of answered some of my questions as you went through the presentation.
Move your mic closer to your.
You kind of answered the questions as you went through the presentation.
Great.
Any other questions, Council?
Ms. Dawn, could you possibly skip back to the slide where is the very high-pitched, very tall hydromulch application where I believe they're actually showing them spraying it? Yeah, that one. That's probably comparable, if not a higher slope than what we're looking at in our application, and it's much higher than what we have. And this is still in a large-scale application. This is what is common in the industry. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That top picture, it's a little bit hard to see, but this is very likely a TxDOT overpass here. You see the guardrail on the elevated part of the upper picture.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is a very, very common application.
Okay. You know, I'm not in road work. I am in construction, so I understand, you know, having to address issues as they come up, but not being in this particular field, sometimes and this is a personal comment on my point, when you see an application like this, it doesn't always seem very robust to the layman. But when you look at applications like this in the industry, where massive construction projects are finished off with this, it speaks to the capability of the product in the application. So I just wanted to review that because that caught my eye as a really showing the viability of the product.
Right, yes, sir. And in that lower picture, you can see it looks very clumpy what's coming out of his spray gun. That's because it's got that cellulose fiber mixed into there. And so you're not just getting a green dye water with some seed in it. You're getting a mulch that's helping to stabilize the seed, maintain your moisture. And then in the steeper areas, we'd still recommend putting the mat over it, which will further support moisture retention until the seed germinates.
Any other questions? Okay, now down to the nitty-gritty.
I have a question, Mayor.
Oh, sure.
In this whole process, when you designed this project, how did this not be accounted for in the process?
So whenever we do these projects, very often there's not a need. Once you put topsoil back on, the grass comes back on its own. This particular one, because we finished it, the construction finished at this time of year that it did, right as we're going into winter, there's a concern that the natural vegetation isn't going to take off as fast as it would have had this been finished in, say, July.
Like we had anticipated. So that's really the real reason, because of the timing.
Yeah, I was going to add on to that. The contract actually had SW3P, which is what a contractor's responsible is. He put the topsoil down and he did throw some broadcast seeding. So that is part of the contract. And like Don said, we weren't expecting to finish during the winter or where we are now. So had we finished kind of where the warmer temperatures were, this probably wouldn't have been such a big issue.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
is
so if we had finished in June or July, we would be able to have let the natural grasses reestablish, because there is topsoil. Grass will come back relatively quickly in the growing season. Trouble is, it's not the growing season right now, and so we need to help it along.
An example of that is when we did Tristan Dam. It came back really fast.
mm-hmm.
It wasn't this time of the year, but it came back real fast, and we didn't have any money, and we didn't seed anything.
Now, looking at the expected completion time when this project was designed and engineered, we went through a series of pushbacks from the Water Development Board that set us off by multiple months, correct?
Yes, and then it was hung up in environmentals for about 4 months.
Okay.
So this recommendation, do you think that's going to be the cure to this problem? Or
Yes.
Are we going to have to come
Yes,
back and do
I'm
something
confident
else?
that the recommendation is going to address the problem. It'll also give you a surface that I think you'd be very proud of to be the entrance of your city and be able to maintain without having to worry about weeds and trying to put herbicide out and those kind of things where you couldn't mow over a rock surface. I think you're going to be real proud of this.
Yeah, I like the presentation myself. I mean, when we talked yesterday, I was kind of left with the impression that it was either or we had to select one all the way through, but breaking it down based on the slope is a very logical thing to do.
And getting down to, like I said, the nitty gritty, what is this all going to cost? That we had said that we would spend up to $90,000 over what we had from the Texas Water Development Board.
Yes.
And this is going to take us about $2,000 over that, right?
Correct. So at the other council meeting, you guys had approved up to $90,000.
Right.
So that left us with $17,400 to
Yeah.
spend. And so right now we're going to be roughly over 2,000 of that amount.
And these are estimates. We can flag it and get the contractor to identify, maybe it's maybe it's 60 feet on one side and 110 feet on another side. In the pictures that we're looking at right now, if you look at that picture in the middle, you can see it's not that far that you've got a steep slope, just really beyond that first rock dam down near the project site. And then you've got a very flat slope, and you wouldn't need any of that fiber mat on top of any of this. This is going to take hydro mulch with no problem at all. It would be a very short distance here. But in putting together the estimate, I wanted to make sure we were estimating on the high side. You know, this side, we may have a little bit further. It may be 110 feet on, you know, the approach side on the right, on the north side. But not every side is going to have exactly the same. And so we'll flag that, measure those angles and flag that, and let the contractor give us a precise, but we did use his values from his prior estimate in terms of unit price. And so then it's a quantity. So the 20,000 is going to be the high end. And we may get it in at that 17, but I don't want to commit to that until we have an opportunity to flag it based on what you guys, the path you want to move forward with and the type of applications you want to make.
Any other questions? I think,
She answered it before I could ask the question.
boy, Don, you're on it. Okay.
I'm getting better.
Yes, you are.
Since we have this, do I hear a motion to move forward with the recommendation from the engineers?
I'll make a motion, we move forward with the recommendation from the engineers.
Second.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. And
Thank
the
you,
other.
Dawn.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
it flagged and get the contractor to quote the specific quantities for you.
All right. Super. Thank you. The other thing is that in this agenda item, it says the bond construction projects, which we had pre-construction meeting yesterday that's going to start the 29th of November, the project, which seems awfully late, but hey, it is what it is. The general land office projects, I would like to plan another town hall meeting, and I was thinking that it would be nice to have just sit down and have a workshop and be able to talk about, you know, what this is all going to look like. We're going to need Dawn and Victoria here so that we can ask all the questions, then open it up and have a town hall type thing. That's my thinking right now. But I think it's essential now that we've gotten that $8 million also, you know, there are a lot of questions that have come up over that. So I'd like to see if we can schedule something having both of you here. Can we look at calendars and when
Good
that might
idea.
be?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Don and I will look at our calendars and see what we can come up with.
Of course, we'll be looking at November at this point. Can you hear us, Dawn?
Yes, ma'am. I was wondering if that's a meeting that the GL, is this a workshop for the city or is the GLO
Yeah,
going to
just for the
participate in
city.
this
So
also?
so it's just for the city and our people. So
Okay.
it's kind of like what we did before with the
Right,
$11.5
okay,
million dollar. But just to kind of update people, I know there are questions always,
Absolutely.
and I know
Absolutely.
that we have questions as a council. So we'd like to sit down and, you know, we can't take any action. Of course, we still haven't gotten a contract, but I think it would be important and beneficial for all of us if we could have a sit down.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. As soon as I get back to town, Vic and I will coordinate our schedules and find some several
dates.
options
Okay.
that you guys can pick from.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. I appreciate it. Are there any other questions for Victoria or Dawn?
Thank you.
We appreciate you greatly.
Very good presentation, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Do you mind if I sign off?
Nope.
You can stay if you want.
Oh, she's over in San Antonio. She doesn't want to sit here. We'll see you done. Oh, I never do. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Victoria. You can sneak out.
Can we call you Vic too?
I'll let you.
Thanks.
All right. Upon recommendation of our attorney, we are going to move items 2 and 3 down to the end of the agenda. And we're going to move on to item 4, consider for discussion actions change order number 2 on on Texas Water Development Board project, which has become a moot point at this moment. So, moving right along, you get the mayor's report. I've got a whole folder here, guys. First of all, something interesting. You know, we're toward the end of a legislative session. They're into their third session at this point, but it's coming to completion. One of the things that happened, one of the bills that passed was that online sales were going to be attributed to, the sales tax was going to be to point of destination instead of point of origin. There are several cities that are suing, but the law took in, this is something I learned at the Texas Municipal League Conference. The law took effect. Was it September 1? I think it was September 1. Anyway, it's either September or October 1. But the law took effect, and that's what's in effect until the lawsuits, until further notice. So, who knows how long that's going to take and what it's going to be. But that could be interesting for Ivanhoe. Because you know how much stuff we buy on Amazon?
Sure.
Everybody, and especially I think in rural areas more than in cities, we depend on, online purchases. And of course the cities that are suing are the ones that have, vied to have Amazon warehouse in their city or whatever. And so they're really upset about it, but that was the decision that was made by this bill that passed in the recent legislative session. So we'll keep abreast of what's going on. In fact, I'm going to a conference up in Dallas on it's a symposium that's being put on by the comptroller, and that's November 3rd. So I'm going to drive up to Dallas. Fortunately, I have a friend that lives in Dallas, and I can stay with her and then go to that. It's actually in Capel, which is one of the cities that's suing. And it'll be interesting because this is the third of a series of symposiums that they're having, and each one is in one of the cities that has sued. So that is suing. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires at the third one. Anyway, and CD and I will be attending a Texas Public Officials Workshop, which is it's like a training for disaster preparedness. It was something we did years ago. Remember, you had to do that too. Mm-hmm. It's just a very basic one. It's 3 hours, but I found out from our emergency management person that we didn't really have to go, but it's not a bad idea to show up when Tatum calls you to show up. So we're going to be there. Texas Forest Country Partnership is hosting an economic development summit on next Tuesday, and I had not thought about it, but it's really very interesting. I wish that we could go as a group. I think it would be beneficial if anybody can let me know if they can go. I know John, David, and Will have already said that they are not available, but anybody that would like to, any of you that would like to go, it's really interesting. And we have our senator and our legislators in the afternoon, and it's a panel discussion, which gets really interesting too. So anyway, and of course, I just attended the TML conference, and there was an awful lot of information, and it's valuable. We got lots of ideas, and I'll tell you, going through that exhibit hall and seeing all the equipment, I just go crazy over equipment. I found a grinder upper that I would just love to have, and talk about lawnmowers. I mean, they just everything, and they have. Options for software. They had presentations on road material. In fact, we have a guy coming out next Wednesday to show us his stuff, that supposedly miracle stuff. It doesn't hurt to listen to anybody. So David and CD and I are going to get together with this guy next Wednesday if anybody else wants to come and see what that's about. But there's different options on material. So another thing. Well, all in all, I think the conference was very worthwhile. This is the first time I've ever attended one because they're always kind of expensive, not kind of quite expensive, but it was in Houston. So I was able to stay with my daughter and we didn't have to have the cost of a hotel. So that enabled me to go, and so I was really grateful that I was able to attend it. And I think that's about it for right now. And so I'm going to move along to consider for discussion action
Quick-
supervisor. Huh?
Quick question about
Yes, sir.
the point of delivery for the online ordering. How are we going to keep? How will the state? How will Ivanhoe get money versus Woodville getting it all?
Our map is registered, so it should. They go by
So-
our map.
So we have the same zip code, and I've been told by the delivery man not to use those 4 numbers at the tail end of the 75979. But was that set up to identify Ivanhoe?
I'm not really sure, and that's one of the things that when I go to the comptroller's thing, this presentation, that's one of the questions I want to ask: is
Okay.
how are we going to be sure that we get our money?
Because that could be huge.
And part of this presentation, by the way, is economic development corporations, municipal development districts, hotel occupancy taxes. I was thinking about that because we have so many bed and breakfasts going on right now. So we have to look at that possibility. Public improvement districts, reinvestment zones. There's all kinds of interesting information that can come out of that.
It was just a quick question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Number 6, consider for discussion action supervisor of dams report. Mr. Harrison, you are on.
Hi, Rusty. Is the green light on?
Mayor, City Council, there's nothing going on with the dams. It's nice and quiet,
That's
and it's the way I like it. You have not received a monthly report yet because I haven't written them up. The dams were walked down. It was about the same time that Chance was out doing that seam on the spillway, and that's been finished and went well. And we got a little bit of rain around that time to help fill the lake back up, and that was nice. How long the drought's going to go, I don't know, but it sure is dry, and everybody knows that. But I don't have a lot to talk about, so. Do you have any questions?
we appreciate you.
Well, then that's it.
We
Keep it
appreciate
quiet.
you, and we
It's
appreciate
nice.
Will's support. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, number 7 is report on municipal court activity. And Judge Rader gave me her report, and total fines and court costs collected, $899. Total fines retained by the city, $630.37. Total court costs sent to the state, $268.63. Year to date, this was kind of an interesting item. Year to date this year, this is the end of our fiscal year. Because right now our financials that we're looking at are September 30th. So we've begun a new fiscal year, but this is the one that just finished. And total fines collected were $13,296.40, and the previous year was $6,175. So it doubled. Of course, we had COVID to deal with, and so that made a difference in activity. Magistrate activity, 3 Class C misdemeanor warnings done by Judge Haney, 1 Class A and B misdemeanor warning done by Judge Haney, and 1 search warrant issued by Judge Haney. And that's it for the court report. Next is report on City Marshal Office activity. Marshal Riley, is he present? Yes, he is.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
Well, September 2021, we had 233 calls.
through our office. Only 23 calls were through the sheriff's office. There was 28 citations wrote. 9 of them were me with code violations. 19 of them were for traffic citations. We conducted 9 warrants and capiouses, and most of those warrants were not through the city of Ivanhoe. They were through Woodville, Hardin County, Polk County, different counties, but they were in our city. I also did 1 search warrant with the ATF agent, which is not done through Judge Haney. It was federal. Through
What
the
does
federal
ATF
court.
mean?
Alcohol, tobacco,
Oh, tobacco and firearms. Okay, yeah.
That search warrant went through federal, so we didn't have to deal with, make Judge Haney work more. So, other than that, our other officer came back from the Army. He worked on 5 calls himself and did 2 follow-up investigations, which they're done also.
Good.
And here lately, because Missy's gone, we're gonna miss her. But I think Jackie will be good for us and the city. Because today, if you want to look at my time, I spent 2 hours in the office. The rest of it, I was taking Jackie everywhere. We was taking care of code stuff. So,
Good.
any questions, Boston?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. Number 9, consider for discussion action Public Works report.
It's on.
Just speak into it.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay. Good evening. Good to see y'all again. We are a little bit different than the ditches. We have a lot going, or the dams. We have a lot going on right now, and most of it is culverts, ditching, ditch cleaning. We've got the blade out working. Trying to play catch up after 3 months of preparing for the detour. And for those interested folks that live on the detour, I'm sure they saw us out there today. We've gone from about 800 cars a day to 3. And we're taking advantage of that opportunity by putting the blade and more material. So we've brought the edges back up to snuff and made some much needed repairs. We're not going to let that road get away from us. We are busy preparing 2 new detours. Everybody will be glad to hear that. They will be very short-lived and only affect certain areas. They include Ivanhoe Ranchettes and sections of Galahad Loop. That's for the work that's going to be done on Lakewood, at Galahad Loop, and Ivanhoe Estates. Tommy's favorite road. The others are going to be going through Nottingham, Little John, that area, to prepare for the work that's going to be done on Sherwood and Sherwood West, so we can make sure we get everybody through. Nobody's late for school, nobody's late for work. Again, these will be much short-lived than what we had previously on this major job. So everybody just keep your drawers on. It's going to be okay. Just a few weeks, and we'll be done. Other than that, like I said, we're just busy trying to play catch up. We've got a stretch of good weather here. We're trying to make the best use of it. One thing I do want to bring up is we acquired a new materials yard, and Mayor had asked to get a quote on a privacy fence, just one side to separate the neighbors from the yard.
Is it just one side or side and back?
Just one side.
Oh.
Just one side.
Okay.
There's nothing but a vacant lot behind us and on all sides except for that side. We did get a quote from, I believe it was S&S Fencing. The gentleman's name is Stewart and Stevenson. So that should be pretty easy to remember. For 120 feet of fence, 8 foot tall, using 3 runners on the back. Is that what they call them, David? The fence runners on the back? Since it's so tall, 3 instead of 2. Instead of 4x4s, since the fence is so tall, he quoted us a price with 6x6s. I'm kind of in agreement. Those are not going to twist too much.
That's true.
And a 12-foot 4x4 stands a pretty good chance of doing that. Long story short, he quoted us a price of about $4,100. I know that sounds astronomical. I asked him the same quote with 4x4s. It dropped it about $348. So it might be worth it to consider the 6x6s. I also put 3 of my guys for 3 days with the material, including the screws, the concrete, the whole 9 yards, everything that he would use. And we are only $900 cheaper than what he is. Plus, we're going to be 3 gentlemen out not working on the road for those 3 days. So it might be worth the $900 to go ahead and let him do it. Or we can acquire more quotes, but I have a feeling they're going to be somewhere in the same neighborhood. Other than that, that's about bringing y'all up to date to this point.
When would he be able to start and complete it?
I'm not sure, and neither is he. I think, like he told me this morning, he's waiting to see go ahead, and then he can shift some things around. I don't have the answer to that, Skip. I wish I did, but I just don't at this point. But it's something we need to get done
Oh, absolutely.
quickly.
Are there questions about that? You know what property he's talking about. You know, that was a lot that was donated that we decided to use to mix that material that we're getting from the pellet mill. And I was hoping that they would leave like a stand of trees between the lady next door and the laydown yard, but it pretty much they took out everything. And so the poor woman has that to deal with next door. And so, I told her that we would definitely, and that was the recommendation, that we put a fence up to privacy fence and also to, muffle the sound a little bit.
Sure.
So,
What about on the front side, on the street side?
We've installed a culvert to get in and out. We've laid some of that material that we're building over there, and it's held up great through the rain. We were able to drive the dump truck on it and equipment on it, and no breakthroughs, no getting stuck, no anything. So we're starting to load up on the ash material over there and the dirt. I don't want to start mixing until we get this fence up.
I think the question he had was, are you going to put a fence up, right?
Or, yes, partially, or shortened run of fence on the street side?
I don't think there's any reason to, no.
Okay.
You don't think they'll steal our dirt?
They have ample opportunity at
Well,
the Chanticleer yard.
They have more opportunity if there's a fence that they can hide behind.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Do we need to do anything or just? let him-
My thought was really about the visual from the
me
street
too.
and
Me
the
too.
noise, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, we're limited to only a 4-foot fence across the front via the
Other
ordinances
people have
and the
put
codes.
fences that are higher, but they're not supposed to.
Right. So, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think we'd be able to block too much.
That's fine.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay. Is that it?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. There is not a reason to vote on that, but is everybody in agreement with the fencing?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the only question I have is make sure that we follow what our ordinances say.
Yeah. Definitely.
He's made recommendations, as I had mentioned to him about the ordinances, to drop it 30 inches or 4 feet, somewhere along there, the closer you get to the road.
Right.
We'll follow all the ordinances.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't believe there's any report on code enforcement activity. Okay. By the way, just, okay, but before Debbie starts, you can lower the mic, Debbie. There. Anyway, everybody is aware that we do have hired someone. We actually hired her thinking it was going to be the part-time position. She is in agreement to going with the full-time position. And so we're going to be interviewing someone for the part-time position next week. But we've interviewed, there were 2 possible candidates for the part-time position after we hired Jackie. And they're really good, viable candidates. So we have the second interview next Wednesday, and we'll be making a decision about that person. Debbie has stepped in, she stepped in right away when Missy had to leave. And she's really helped somewhat train because, Missy had a system. She was very well organized, and it's one of these things where, she took sick leave and we thought she'd be back. There wasn't any question of training anybody. So I really appreciate Debbie stepping in, and they're trying to figure out how things all work, and they're doing a fantastic job. And Jackie seems to be just jumping right in and figuring out a way to delve through all this stuff and figure out what was going on and what needs to be done. So that's why she and Terry went out and took pictures today and updated pictures of code enforcement violations that had been on file for quite some time. But Debbie, go ahead.
Oh. Well, I just said, Jackie is doing a wonderful job. I mean, she's even pointed out some things to me that I didn't even realize were in some of the files. So she's going to be a great asset to the city. Like I said, we have been going through every single one of those files, and these are not exact numbers, but, it's like the 2020 cases, I've counted 113 closed, and we've probably closed out around maybe 10 just in the last few days. We've determined that they've already gone away. Of the 2021 cases, we have 7 closed, and there weren't that many 2021 because of COVID and the restrictions and stuff. We got about 7 non-conforming, and right now, because for the junk vehicles, we have 15 the affidavits for search warrants on the judge's desk to start getting rid of these junk vehicles so that Terry can go out there and start putting the stickers on them. And we will be monitoring those for the 30 days and to get those off the properties if they don't want to comply.
All right. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate that. Is there anything from the Planning and Zoning Commission at this point?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Are you still looking at the zoning boundaries?
No.
You're not going to?
Well, they decided not to look at that at this time.
Okay.
I think that's something we need to look into.
Well, I can bring it back on the agenda, yes.
That would be good.
That'd be a good idea.
'Cause it just doesn't make sense to have the boundaries in the middle of the street.
No.
All right. Moving right along, consider discussion action resolution 2022-1R, operating hours of City Hall. We had talked about this before, the idea of having the office open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Those are the hours that the part-time person would be serving. And I think that was your idea, wasn't it, Will? A great idea. That's the hours that would be open to the public. The office hours will still be the way they have been, but open to the public from 10 to 3. And that actually gives the staff time afterwards to be able to do all the paperwork that's involved. There's so much paperwork and follow-up stuff, so it really works out really well. But we do have to pass a resolution in order to officially change the office hours. So do I hear a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-1R?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
That was actually Councilman Morris's suggestion on
Was
the
it?
hours.
Was it?
Thank
I
you.
don't know who did it, but it was.
I suggested part-time position, the hours would be limited, and he came back and said, yeah, we could change our operating hours, so that's where credit is due.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Tommy. Brilliant. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Consider for discussion action resolution 2022-2R, establish procurement threshold requirements, and this is Councilman Morris.
Is this like grant of authority, dollar amounts?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, anything under $10,000 we can approve. If it's over 10,000, we need to vote on it. But the way this is, it says the mayor and the mayor pro tem would approve anything under 10. Anything over would come to the council. And anything over 50 has to go out for bids.
Okay.
Say that one more time.
Anything under 10,000, the mayor or I can approve.
Under or up to?
Up to, but under 10,000. 999, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
10,000 above has to be voted on by the council. And anything over 50,000 has to go out for bids. And that's the resolution, basically.
That's pretty much the way it has been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, isn't that the CD? Wasn't it pretty much that way up until this point anyway? Oh, no.
So,
Oh, CD's getting up to speak.
uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay, according to the resolutions that have been passed in the past, back in the early days of the city when it was just one employee, and we had material that we needed to acquire, rather than coming to the council then had approved for the city secretary to authorize up to $10,000 without coming to the council and getting approval. And that passed. It was back in 2012, I believe, or something like that.
What was the dollar amount again?
10,000. Okay, and then between then and now, the council has also authorized the mayor for smaller projects to authorize that. It didn't have a specific amount set with that, but it provided for her to be able to work with a contractor or something if it came up without having to pull together for a special meeting. So this just puts it in writing what has been pretty much the given taking place.
The standard operating procedure.
Yes, sir.
And just checks still require 2 signatures, so.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's.
Oh, yeah,
there's
definitely.
So,
Do you want to put that in the form of a motion?
Well, yes, I'd like to make the motion we adopt resolution number 2022-2R. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Ivanhoe establishing procurement threshold requirements.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, discussion.
Is this inclusive of both services and capital expenditures?
Yes.
Capital expenditures are not above 10,000. They're below 10,000, I believe.
Well, anything
Well, I mean,
over
if-
10's got to come to the council anyway.
Yeah.
all right, so the last council meeting, we had talked about $10,000 for tree removal on Tristan.
Mhm.
So Rusty is going to talk to the contractor, so now he has to come back to council or to you or to Mayor Pro Tem or the mayor and get that approved.
Yeah, the final approval. Yeah, once.
All right,
Well, as long as it's under 10,000, if it's over that, we'll all vote on
it's going to be $9,800
it. Okay.
is where it's going to be. But I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
You're
'cause
talking
he's-
about over on Tristan and, okay, yeah, sure. No, that's not a problem.
All right, so, but I'll have him bring the bid to you for signatures.
Yes, under the new procedure, that would be, if we adopt this.
All right, I just want to make sure that we adopt this, that we're on the same page,
Right.
Right.
and that he knows. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Number 14, consider discussion action resolution approving Texas General Land Office contract documents, which have not come in yet, so we can't do that. But and authorizing mayor as signator on GLO grant documents. I would like to ask the council go ahead and give me the authority when those documents come in to sign them, so that we can get the process going as quickly as possible. We all know what the contracts, what the grant applications look like, what it involves. By the way, that's one of the things, like, once we have to go ahead with exactly the way the grant application says, you know, when we sign a contract, then there can be change orders afterwards. Because we were talking about the other day, I was asking Dawn about some of the roads that are on that map for the $8 million, for example. And she said, you don't change anything until the contracts are signed and everything is, you know, done. Then after that, you can do change orders for like parts that we've already done and substitute other parts. So, but like I say, what I do want to do right now is that they said that the contracts will be coming in through DocuSign. I want to be able to sign them as quickly as possible and get them back in. So if I hear, can I have a motion to give me that authority to sign those contracts?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Questions
This is,
for GLO for the 11.5 million and the $8 million grant?
okay, thank you.
How many signatures are required on this one? Just one?
Just one.
Would it be a good idea to have a second signature on it?
Oh, don't screw up the GLO. Don't ask stuff of the GLO. I mean, we can vote you to sign it. I don't care, but
No.
but we can't ask GLO to change their
process.
Their process.
Okay,
No.
that's the question.
I mean, I don't mind somebody else signing it, but let's not.
As long as they're available.
All right.
Yeah. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
That
Oh,
was
you
a
already
motion,
made the
yeah.
motion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 15, consider discussion action proposals from contractors for street and road maintenance projects for fiscal year 2022. And this is, oh, David is going to do his report, the reports on this one. You are, I guess so. CD just pointed at you.
That'd be numbers
Oh,
15
here,
and 16,
we've got 'em.
right?
Yeah,
That's 15 and 16, huh?
yeah.
From memory, today, we would have, I think, 2 bids.
Mm-hmm.
that came in for materials, and it's, one's cheaper on one items, one's, they counter each other. It's, I think, always been a position that we
Approve
take at
both.
least 2 of those, and there's only 2 that applied for that. I would like to see you guys take the time and think to okay both vendors. One is customer service is phenomenal. They're a little pricey on their asphalt, but the other can sometimes take as long as 2.5 weeks to get to it. These guys can get us the next day.
To get you answers or to get material?
Material.
Oh,
But further down the line, they kind of switch sides. So it would be nice to have two choices that we could go to. One could get us immediately, the other one could. I think y'all have the prices and so forth in front of you.
Oh, well,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It's in
It's
our
a packet.
handout.
Hey, David, I got a question. In the standpoint of the gentleman that y'all are supposed to meet next week, would this have any bearing on that, or should we wait till after y'all's meeting next week?
I don't think it will have any bearing on it.
No,
Okay.
that would just be an additional option.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm all for additional
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes they run short on an item and one can't get it for months and the other one can get it all day long.
Right, okay.
No.
All right. Motion to approve.
I make a motion we approve both vendors.
I second.
Okay. Any other questions?
I haven't
Don't
seen
don't
the-
go
We
away.
haven't seen the document.
It's in
It's
the
in
electronic
the
package that was sent
electronic-
yesterday.
Thingy.
I was having trouble with my PDF.
And really, in reality, you can have this copy.
Let me see.
All we're approving right now is the vendors. We're not approving costs because costs fluctuate from time to time. So it's not about approving costs. It's just approving the two different vendors. So we have some options on costs. Like David said, sometimes one is high and the other one's low. And
So one is Gulf Coast
mm-hmm,
and one is Texas Asphalt Company.
right, East Texas
Texas.
Asphalt. And traditionally, that's what we do. We take whatever bids come in or whatever companies are offering their services and approve them. But we do have to go through the process every year. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, David, you're on again. Yeah. This is request for proposals for street contractors, maintenance. And normally we get more bids than one, but
Street grading, ditch, fill, clean, and so forth.
I think we got them backwards. didn't we?
Okay, I can read this to you. I'm not sure I understand it correctly, other than the fact that nobody bid on it. It was published in the Tyler County Booster. Verbal information was supplied to a representative of a firm that is currently doing right-of-way mowing. No firms responded for street grading, ditch, or culvert cleaning, and culvert cleaning. One firm responded on right-of-way mowing and weed eating, which was Ocean Breeze Lawn Service. The company is currently providing right-of-way mowing service to the city and has general liability insurance coverage on file. It is in the bid review committee recommendation that council award the right-of-way mowing bid to Ocean Breeze Lawn Service with stipulation that mowing locations are specified by the city prior to mowing. That there will be occasions when full 40-hour work week for billing purposes will not occur, and there will be weeks when right-of-way mowing is not authorized by the city.
yeah. Okay,
What cost?
That I don't have.
it's there. Ocean Breeze. Okay.
Oh, you didn't give me all of it. That's the issue.
You gonna pass that over to?
Okay. There, don't think I need it anyway, but it is. Question was at what cost? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mowing and weeding of Ivanhoe right-of-ways includes expenses of blade string, equipment, gas, and insurance. $75 an hour, paid weekly for 40 hours. That is $3,000 weekly.
And that's if we use them, 40
For 40
hours.
hours,
But-
right.
But that's just a general,
The next one is, same thing, this line item includes, quote, if 2 employees added, $100 an hour. Rate if adding 2 employees paid weekly for 40 hours, $100 an hour unit price, $4,000 weekly. If we use them for the full 40 hours, correct?
no, if if we use them on a regular basis and they're required to hire a couple more people,
Right.
then the price would go up.
Okay.
We looked at the costs. We can't afford to use them as often as we thought we hoped we could. We just can't afford it. But that's the reason that they had that additional option there, was
Right.
if they had to hire more employees.
Okay.
So how many people do we get for $75 an hour?
Good question.
One.
There was more than one. He had other people doing weed eating and stuff while he was mowing.
I usually see about 3.
He's got 2 crews plus another fellow that
Yeah.
drives around with a weed eater.
And they really worked well. I felt like we got our $75 an hour worth. They did great job.
They made some hay.
There were areas that they could not mow because takes a side boom mower. But with what they did an excellent job. And I feel like they worked their $75 an hour.
Every time I
And it
saw
was
'em, they were
really
getting it.
needed, and they did everything in Ivanhoe that they could, like except for those areas where there was.
They were also a very big help in spotting a lot of these water leaks and some other problem areas that we are trying
Yeah.
to fix up and go and do for the safety. But they spot a lot of water leaks for us.
Well, yeah, they went on every road that hadn't been addressed in a long time, and so they uncovered water leaks.
Yeah, there was 5 in one day.
Yeah, so the water company was thrilled.
So this comes out of your budget?
It did.
Well, what budget, what line item does it come out of?
Public Works,
Public
Still?
Works?
go sit down.
You just call me
We
back,
threw
yeah.
more money at you, so go sit down.
I know. Yeah, it did come out of the Public Works budget,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
We took more away too, though.
Well,
Yeah.
So, this comes out every month? You could spend up to $12,000?
No, we can't do it.
we
That-
can't afford
that's-
we can't afford that.
No.
No,
So
we won't have a very high volume in the slow growing months, and then it'll be as needed is what I'm
Yeah,
getting
right.
from it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's, yeah.
when our staff is not available to do it and we need backup, we can do
Right.
it
right.
a la carte.
It's a good
Yeah.
way to explain it, yeah.
Right.
All right, that's kind of where my question is,
That's why.
how often and when?
Well, we can't determine right now, so, but that's why in that report that you read, I don't have it. I think I gave it to you. That it says that it's at the option of the office here
Yeah.
to tell them when it's needed, when we feel it's
And
needed.
it keeps your
And we
crew
may not-
working on the roads.
Yes.
It may not be that we have to do all the streets every time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these streets that nobody ever goes down, we mowed them this time.
And I'm not against this at all.
No.
I'm in favor of it. I'm just wondering the cost factor and how's it gonna play on the budget?
Well,
That's my.
that's why we decided that we better do it as needed and according to what we feel is needed at the time, rather than say, okay, we want you every 2 months.
Yeah.
Because that's how Rusty and I do the dams as a as-needs basis.
Right.
And
Exactly.
like we didn't mow in September, so we do October, and now we're done for the winter.
Right. Exactly. That's what we're
You-
thinking here.
You know me
So-
well enough to know what my reaction was when I was told it was coming out of my budget, so we're good. It's
So
as a- as
what do we
needed
need
basis.
now? What do we need for this meeting with regard to that?
Oh, we need to approve him as a vendor.
Oh, he's not already?
We have
Well,
to do it every year.
Every year you set up the contractors that for material and for
Okay.
labor. So
All right.
this is something we have to do every year.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve Ocean Breeze.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 17, consider discussion action financial report for September of 2021.
ICD.
Councilman and Mayor, I lost my right arm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I am so thankful for Debbie,
Yeah.
a wonderful volunteer, and also for Jackie Black, who is coming on and proving herself very well as a really viable office assistant. Our October sales tax was received last week, came in at $6,562. That's comparing to just under $6,000 in 2021 for the same month. Last year, it was $59.91, which is a 9.5% increase for the same month from last year. This being the first month that I'm reporting on for October, we don't really have anything else in that line item for sales tax to go by, but we did close out last year with $79,022 in sales taxes. So continue shopping and enjoying the benefits of having Hancock Barbecue, Dollar General, our liquor store, and our local folks who are working from home and providing sales tax reports. Thank you for that. I passed out some information on the TML, our summary of claims experience report, and this is the snapshot showing where things stand. You'll be in executive session here shortly in regards to a lawsuit, and also looking back in the past, you can see where things, the amount that TML insurance has covered the city for. The financials came in so far into this week that I really haven't had an opportunity to go through those. I sent the information out electronically to the council when it came in. Well, the bank statements come in early. I get those to you early in the month, but then the reconciliations and then the review of budget versus actuals, since those just came in, I'm going to ask the council to delay action, postpone on approval of that part of the financial report. If you look at me and it looks like I have a deer in the headlight look, just understand we're getting there.
It's been a rough month.
I make a motion, we postpone financials till next month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? CD, thank you. The next two agenda items, consider for discussion action update relating to the Ontiveros legal proceeding, and the consider for discussion action council update training on Board of Adjustment function and responsibility is going to happen in a closed session. And so we will recess.
What about agenda items 2 and 3?
We're going to do that after.
After?
Yes, that's on recommendation of our attorney.
All right.
Okay. All right. So we will be going into closed session at 7:23 p.m. Okay, what time is it? 8:25? 8:21. I'd like to return to open session at 8:21 PM. Number 18, consider discussion action update relating to individual legal proceedings. There is none, right? City Attorney?
Just provided an update for council, which is something we can do in executive session.
Okay, next, consider discussion action council update, oh, wait a minute. I have to pick up on item 2 and 3. Okay, we're going to address item number 2, consider discussion action variance permit for Robert Stoneman following the public hearing September 21st. Do I hear a recommendation one way or the other? A motion is there discussion about the situation?
Wow. I make a motion that we deny this variance.
I second that.
Is there are there any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I think you're supposed to conduct, well, I don't know.
Well, I
do
will
we do
say that in reference to the decision, it's a question of reading the ordinances to the letter of how they're written and making a decision based on upholding those ordinances as we are charged to do as the zoning board of adjustments.
Well, in addition to that, we discussed it in depth with the city attorney, and he helped us come to that decision, as unpleasant as it is.
Okay, so David should actually conduct this part, right? Okay, item number 3.
Oh, can he call the motion as the chairperson of the? Okay.
Consider for discussion action variance permit for Daryl Morris following public hearing on October 14th. Do I hear a motion in response to this request for variance?
I make a motion to reject this variance. Second. And basically for the same reasons that we stated in number 2 there.
And additional input is that after lengthy discussion with the city attorney, as unpleasant as it is, we have to deny it. So
that was,
you
Dis-
call for the vote.
You have a,
can we,
Tommy?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. No, I'm in favor. You were too fast.
Late.
Story of my life.
All right. Then it's time for, are there any communications from the audience, Debbie? Nope. Okay, council comments? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at whatever time it is because I left my phones
Aye.
back there. Sorry for the confusion, hon.
But this is not even correct. This one, I must have sent you the wrong one. Because it's one